So today's guest is a psychologist and author. Her name is Gloria Vanderhorst, and she is an Instagram Live virgin. She's never done this before, but hopefully we can get her on. And we're going to talk about something a little bit different, men and intimacy, and what we can do, especially if we are, here she is. I see you, Gloria. Let me get you on here. What we can do boys and what our society does to men, which affects boys in terms of them having a limited emotional vocabulary. So thank you. There you are, Gloria. That worked
I'm
very,
here.
very smoothly for the first time. So I'm really glad. But before you even introduce yourself, can you just tell us what is intimacy? What does intimacy mean in general? Because I think people have all kinds of ideas of what that word intimate means.
So intimate means a connection. If you think of it, we're born connected to another human being. We spend the rest of our lives seeking connection. So intimate is my desire, your desire to be connected to another person in a way that honestly, it feels like the original connection through an umbilical cord.
Really? I have
Uh,
never heard that definition
yeah,
before. Wow.
wild as that sounds, we are seeking that kind of closeness and connection.
Wow. Okay, so before we even get into that topic, can you officially introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
All right, my name's Gloria Vanderhorst. I'm a psychologist, and I've been in private practice for 50 years. I've worked with preschool children. In fact, I started my practice working with preschool boys, and I've done the full age range, adolescents, adults, and I'm currently doing remote work. Thanks to COVID, I was able to let go of both offices, and all my work is remote. Yay. And I'm working with adults, couples, and individuals.
Okay. So you're talking to a community of people dealing with the most extreme separations, divorces, custody battles, and co-parenting situations. My partner Chris and I both work with men and women
Mm-hmm.
in situations because we believe that abuse is a human issue, not a gender issue. And
Right.
some of our most extreme situations are actually male
Right.
victims that a lot of people wouldn't imagine. But
Mm-hmm.
it's true. And so I thought that you would be great to come on and talk about men and intimacy. And so there was something that you had said about how our culture, and we're talking to people globally,
Right.
but you know, we're coming from America mostly. How does our American culture in particular rob men of access to a full range of emotions? And then we'll get into how that affects
Okay.
intimacy.
First, let me say I have done significant divorce work. I'm a parent coordinator, so I
Ooh.
constantly am having one or two um, couples with children going through divorce or post-divorce going through parenting and trying to figure out how to co-parent. So I have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, if you will, in terms of the hostility, the conflicts, the difficulties, and also the successes that can be had when people can really focus on being their best selves, and in family situations really focus on their children and not on each other.
Oh my gosh. So I feel like I found a unicorn because we're always looking for wonderful parenting coordinators and they're so hard to find. I'll get into details later, but are you geographically limited to a certain state or can you do it all over?
I think that I could probably do all over, but my state is Maryland and Washington, D.C.
Okay. All right. All right.
And
We will be talking about that later.
okay.
For sure. We have many clients in desperate need of like someone that really gets it. But anyway, let's talk about again our culture. How does it rob men of that?
So boys are actually born with a broader range of emotional expression than girls. So I'm going to take a breath so you can take that in. And
Wow.
everybody who's listening can take that in. Boys are born with a broader range of emotional expression than girls. So they have higher highs, they have lower lows, but children, by and large, are raised by women, not by men.
Mhm.
So the mother, the female, does not like to go to the high range or to the low range. And so when her little boy heads in those directions, she spends less time engaging the boy. That immediately trains the boy, don't go high, don't go low, all right? Keep yourself right here in the center where mother is comfortable. And then on top of that, right, when this boy starts to walk, we discourage emotional expression on the lower, sadder, needier end of the continuum. And I can demonstrate it, right?
Yeah, please. This is fascinating.
Right. I have a personal account that I'll share, but first let me start just with the general that anybody can see. Go to a local mall, all right, and watch parents of toddlers. If a little girl is distressed and runs up to mom or dad, she gets picked up and then she gets asked, what's wrong? If a little boy is distressed, runs up to mom and dad, he gets asked, what's wrong? If he gives a good enough answer, he will get picked up and receive comfort. All right? Majority of the time, his answer will not be good enough, and he'll just be sent back into the playground. All right? Just go on back, take care of yourself. But my personal example is when our daughter was 3. We were at the neighbor's house because they had a 3-year-old boy. We socialized with them a lot. And the kids were playing over in one part of the living room. The adults were talking and having a very nice time in another part of the living room. And my daughter took the kid's favorite toy and wouldn't give it back. All right, so I noticed this, that she's being a pissy and won't give the toy back. But, hey, they're kids. That's all right. And the little boy starts to cry and walk towards his father. His father backhands him in the chest and lands him on his butt with the message, don't cry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you gave a shocked reaction to that, but in actuality, this is common. We discourage boys from emotions that are on the negative end of the spectrum. And then we wonder why they invest in emotions that are more irritable, angry, lashing out. And, why are our jails full of men?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't let them express in any other way than irritation, hostility, anger. We do it to ourselves. We undermine our own culture.
How long have we always done this?
Always. All right. And it was adaptive at one point. If you think about it, all right, let's put you back in cavemen.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want the male being tender or reluctant to leave the cave and go kill something. So all of those more tender emotions for a caveman, you want those suppressed. And historically, we have needed them suppressed because we spend our men in wars. We kill them off with great regularity. So in the current environment, the way that we do war is changing so dramatically that we're going to spend less and less bodies because we push buttons and send rockets to places, all right? Or we are clandestine and blow things up
Mm-hmm.
when people least expect it. So I think the cultural environment is changing dramatically so that there's a much broader opportunity for men to hold on to the full range of emotion, and it will be healthier for the society as a whole. The divorced couples that you see and interact with, right? I would tell you the majority of those difficulties are because the male cannot go into the softer range of emotions, and the female can't let him go there either. So it isn't just a one-way street. All right, the female is also uncomfortable if the male goes into tender or feelings that aren't courageous or brave or leadership oriented.
You know, as you're talking, I'm thinking about, because we only work, Chris and I exclusively work with very difficult cases, and we often deal with a lot of negotiation and mediation, whether it's in or out of a room. And we do a lot with teaching more strategic and effective communication. And one of the things that we try to do, which you're making me think of, is when there's negotiation going on, how important it is to validate the other person's feelings and make them feel heard, and not to come in blaming and attacking. But it sounds like a lot of those softer skills, and we found them to be very, very effective. And so as you're talking, I'm thinking it makes sense.
Makes perfect sense, right? And that's the perfect tool, right? Is to really facilitate the softer emotions, the tender emotions, the sense that I can have empathy for a person, all right? Because both people are hurting. It isn't one hurting and the other not. Both people are injured and they're hurting in a divorce situation. And if I can facilitate empathy for the other person, even if I don't like the other person,
Right.
I have a capacity to experience a sense of empathy for the other person.
Right. And even though it can be extremely difficult for our clients who are always the victims on some level of domestic abuse, but to just understand that there's that human need for connection, to
Right.
just, even if you can fake it and act like you care, it makes a real difference.
It does make a big difference. And even I don't think there's such a thing as faking it. We look at percentages, right? I might have a 2% capability of empathizing with you, or I might have a 60% capability of empathizing with you and identifying with the feeling that you're experiencing. But I don't think anybody is ever really faking it. You have to be able to find that feeling state inside of you, or it won't come across, right? It'll just land flat and be completely ineffective. We're bright, all right? All human beings are brilliant characters, so we usually perceive, and I can accept someone having kind of a 10% degree of understanding and empathy for me because I want it, all right? I want empathy. I want understanding. So I'll take 10% instead of 0 or hostility. And those are my.
Yeah, again, as you're talking, I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't have said fake it, but we often talk about presentation and taking on certain roles. And so I'm thinking of it like an actor, where an actor can draw up that feeling even if they don't feel it at the moment authentically. Right. They can still act in a way.
I would say to you that they are feeling it. All right, they can present it. They have to feel some percentage of it in order to play that role. If you can't feel it at all, then you don't belong on the screen, because nobody is going to watch you.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so helpful. I'm going to make sure a lot of our clients watch this before they go into negotiation.
Good.
Because we talk about appearing really authentic, and you're saying it that you have to be able to actually feel it, not just
be able to feel it. Okay to feel it at 10 or 15%, right? I really don't like you, all right? I've lived with you. I've smelled you. I really don't like you.
Well, that's where they're at. Yeah.
But at the same time, I can still recognize that you're a human being.
Hmm.
I'm a being, all right? I might hate you up the wazoo, but I can still muster kind of a 10% sense of, look, you're a real human being, and I don't want to squash you like a bug. I just don't like you. I never want to see you again. I don't want to smell you, all right? I don't want to run into you. But I can still muster up some sense of feeling, empathy, understanding, appreciation that you're in pain.
Well, also besides that, as an individual with our clients, that's their child's other parent.
Mm,
So their child is still half of that person.
right,
And so a lot of what we do too, even though it's unpleasant for people, is to have them think about what drew you to that person in the first place. What positive things did you see about them?
right, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
it's true, right? We are attracted to people. Sometimes it's magical, sometimes it's practical,
Hmm.
but we still have an attraction. And so you have to figure out what is it based on and can I muster
Right.
some of in the problem solving that we have to do.
Yeah.
Parent,
Yeah.
right? Co-parenting is really hard.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir here. Yeah. So, okay.
Hard.
So
You're in the same household.
I know. I know. Okay, so let's talk about any other misconceptions do you think people make about boys and intimacy or connection, or moving to men and intimacy and connection, where people assume certain things and they really shouldn't.
Well, I think it's very clear that we assume that boys are competent,
Hmm.
right? Boys are capable, um, and that they can be pretty fearless
Hmm.
as well. So we don't give ourselves the opportunity to be curious about what's this boy facing when he has to walk out to the middle of the diamond, all right, and put a ball in his hand and throw it at the catcher. He's the center of attention.
Hmm.
Everyone is watching him, concerned about him, interested in him, and everyone will lay their emotions on him if he is not successful. So
Hmm.
that's a real heavy weight. And we do that to boys in every sport.
Probably not just sports, but in dating still in this day
Oh,
and age. He's expected to ask me, he's expected to pay. He's
mm-hmm.
expected to have only every other weekend with the kids.
He's expected to know what to do. He's expected
Hmm.
to solve the problem. He's not expected to be afraid of anything or
Mm.
accosted on the street. He's expected to be protective. He's expected to be the one to get hurt or hit, not me. Right? We have very high expectations, and we don't allow ourselves to even think, oh, right, he gets accosted on the street. We're just walking down the street, and two or three guys come out and want to empty our pockets. Well, I'm afraid,
Hmm.
and so is he. Right?
Yeah.
He just doesn't have any other option than to have that panic come up in him the same time that it comes up in me.
But he's not allowed to have the same reaction.
Not allowed to have the same reaction at all, nor is he allowed to process it afterwards.
Mm.
He can't be afraid afterwards either.
Oh boy. So what can we do? Of course, now I feel terrible. I have a boy and a girl as children. They're young adults adults now, but after this conversation, because I can't reflect right at this moment deeply, but I'm going to be thinking about that because you make a lot of valid points.
Yeah, that's good. That's healthy, all right? To really do reflect on how your boy experienced life in a way that was different from the girl, because they are different. We treat them in dramatically different ways, even though we think to ourselves that we don't. We still do.
You know, in this day and age, and we have some clients whose children are gender fluid. So they were born as boys, they want to be girls, or vice versa. Do you notice a difference in your practice, especially now?
Very,
that kind of thing?
Yes, very much so. All right. People are reflective, and the educational system is reflective. They're curious, they're interested. So we're talking about gender identification in kindergarten now. All right. But way before a child can have access to operational thinking or hypothetical thinking. So my gender identity is a powerful part of shaping the rest of my life. And we don't have the opportunity to introduce a kindergarten or an elementary school age child to what is the full range of possibility for them, because they can't think in that way. They can't think hypothetically. They can only think concretely.
We've seen this weaponized against some of our clients, where their ex will say, "You are pushing our child. You're pushing this onto our child." Have you seen that too?
Sometimes that's true. I think by and large, it comes the other direction. All right, that the child is exploring more, a male being feminine, a female being masculine, that they're doing that exploration. I remember talking with a grandmother decades ago and talking about her grandson who was a toddler. She was very concerned because he, as male, right, was interested in everything female. Right? He wanted dolls, he liked skirts, he wanted dresses, right? And he's a toddler. And I said to her, you have to let him show you who he really is. Don't discourage it. Provide support for him, because the rest of the world is going to look at him as an oddball. When in fact, he's only communicating, here are my preferences. Here are the things that I get excited about. Here are the things that I like to do and experience.
Right. And if a child like just was doing anything else, we'd be encouraging
That's
them.
right.
Wow.
That's right.
Very interesting. So what can we as parents do, and what can we do as partners to support boys and men better, starting from before they're born and when they're born, raising them as parents, and then in our relationships, our romantic relationships, our intimate relationships with them? Big question.
No. There's what comes to mind is that there's a piece on YouTube. It's a song by Rosie Greer. I don't know if you know who Rosie Greer is. Rosie Greer is a very
Free to Be You and Me.
Yeah.
Love that.
But
love that.
He sings "It's All Right to Cry."
Yes, I was raised with Free to Be You and Me in that song. I love that.
It's fabulous, right? And quite often I will send parents, it's a very bad video, but it is worth listening to him sing "It's All Right to Cry."
Yeah.
And you know, I would have that on my phone, play it a few times, off and on. Once in a while I'd play it in the car, play at dinner, right? That it is all right to cry. And actually, after you hear Rosie Greer sing that a few times, first it will be silly, right? Then it will be, and then it will be, hey, I get it, right? when I throw balls and not strikes, and I walk off the field with my head hanging down, it is all right to cry, all right? If tears come into my eyes, that's legitimate, right?
Yeah.
I feel ashamed. I feel less than. And it's all right to express that.
Yeah. Saw a quote the other day that said that crying is actually a sign of mental strength.
It is. It is healthy
Hmm.
able to cry. And
I
our
mean,
bodies
you're getting it
relax.
out.
Yep. Our bodies relax, our bodies change when we allow ourselves to express its tension,
Mhm.
right? Tension.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold that in my muscles. What happens if I hold that in my muscles, right? I'm not going to move my body as fluidly as I need to move my body. So I'm going to strain something, or I'm going to fall down, or I'm going to trip. It's not worth it,
Or you're going to
right?
get sick.
Right. Or you're going to get sick. So you might as well let it out. It's much healthier to let it out.
Yeah. Okay, so what about men, young men, older men that we are in these intimate relationships with? What can we do to help round out their emotional
I
expression?
think the female can educate herself. You have
Mm.
to start looking for your own perceptions of discomfort, all right? Because if a guy is experiencing something tender in the softer range of emotion, women typically are not comfortable with that. They start to move away. They don't move towards, all right?
Mm.
Female friend is starting to express something tender. We move towards.
Mm-hmm.
Guy
Wow.
is starting to express something tender. We pull back a little. So look at yourself, right? Women can do a much better job of looking at themselves, because what we say we want, we think, I want a sensitive guy.
Mm-hmm.
The guy shows sensitivity. Watch your body. See what your body actually does. You know, Bessel van der Kolk has this book, The Body Keeps the Score. It's really true. Watch
Yeah.
watch your body, and then hold yourself accountable to acknowledge, yes, I want my husband to be able to show tenderness and to be sensitive. But when his facial expression changes to something of more sadness, do I find myself going, it's all right, honey,
Mm-hmm.
it's all right? Or do I find myself going, tell me more? What's
Mm-hmm.
what are you really feeling?
It's almost like, women complain about mansplaining, like men not really listening and just finding a solution, and you've given the female version
Right.
of not really listening.
That is the female version of not listening. We want it intellectually, but we are not emotionally prepared to connect to it and respond to it. So we have to challenge ourselves to be emotionally prepared to connect to it.
Is there any resources? Are there resources like, I mean, I love Free to Be You and Me, but that's more with children and not the same as in a romantic relationship. But any books that you recommend or
I just have everybody buy The Body Keeps the Score
yeah.
and go through that. Uh, Once you've done that, other things will pop up for you. But that's really the place to start. If you
Yeah.
understand what is really going on in your body and you begin to pay attention to it, you'll end up being brilliant.
Okay, so this background, I'm going to get into your parenting coordination thing now too. How does this knowledge impact your work as a parenting coordinator, especially with high conflict cases?
It helps me to educate people, all
Mm-hmm.
right? And also helps me to challenge people to go deeper into what their own emotional experience is, which is the motivation for how they're showing up and presenting in the meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you show up in a way that is, I will say, second tier, right? You have a deeper, lower experience and emotion and a collection of emotions that you really want to express. Those are driving the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Those are influencing your decisions, but you cannot take the risk of being transparent in a conflict like this. You just really can't. But if you're doing your own individual work and really going deeper into being transparent and really understanding what are your feeling states and what are your goals in this relationship, you can then show up to a meeting with ideas, information, proposals, requests that come much closer to being able to effectively negotiate with the other person. But if you don't know what those needs are, then you really can't be a transparent, honest negotiator because you're typically not going to be fighting for the right thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be fighting for something that is counter to the other instead of pro you,
Yeah.
right? And I want you fighting for what is pro you, but you have to find it first before you can fight for it.
Yeah. Wow. You've given me a lot of things to think about.
That's
And I'm
great.
excited because I am thrilled that we found you as a resource for our clients.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Gloria, how can people find you?
They can find me through my website is the easiest.
Okay.
That's www.drvanderhorst.com. So it's www.drvanderhorst.com. They can find all kinds of resources there. They can book time there. I've got some videos of different techniques. I've got all the blogs that I have written there. Oh, and they can buy my most recent book there.
Ooh, what's your most recent book?
It's a journal book, and it is developed with an essay on the left-hand page, and the right-hand page is blank. Most journal books have lines on the right-hand page
Mm-hmm.
because we expect you to use language. But as I said earlier, all right, we have many other ways that we codify information, that we express ourselves. So you can draw, you could scribble, you could tear the page if you want, but you'll miss the essay on the other side unless you tape it back together. But it is a way to help people go deeper into themselves because we, the body keeps the score. We hold things,
Mm-hmm.
internal tension, muscle tension, and we can express that in ways other than language. Drawing is a fabulous way to express what's happening inside.
Wow. Love this, especially because I love to do art myself, and I've been keeping journals since I was 12, so many decades.
That's great.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, Gloria, so much for today. It's extremely provocative, and I have a feeling that you're going to be hearing from some of our people.
That would be wonderful. And thank you. I enjoyed talking with you.
Yes, my pleasure too. Okay, let's keep in touch.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.